Imagine growing up believing one of your favorite childhood movies was an untouchable classic, only to discover decades later that almost nobody else even remembers it existed. That's exactly what happened to me with The Running Man. As a kid in the VHS era, this neon-drenched Arnold Schwarzenegger flick lived rent-free in my brain. My friends and I worshipped 80s action heroes like they were larger-than-life gods. But for me, Arnold always stood above the rest. So when a brand new remake dropped its trailer, starring Glen Powell and directed by Edgar Wright, I lost my mind. My friends stared at me like I just referenced a movie from another dimension. But the remake is real, it's bold, and it's doing something very different. So today, we're going to break down what makes this new version surprisingly compelling, what it gets right, what it doesn't, and whether it finally gives this story the love it always deserved. To understand why this remake matters, we have to rewind to where it all began. The original Running Man wasn't just a movie. It was a strange hybrid of dystopian chaos, muscle-flexing bravado, and the kind of absurd villains only the 80s could produce. What most people don't realize is that the film was loosely based on a Stephen King novella written under his pseudonym Richard Bachman. The new movie actually leans way closer to that source material, grounding the story in something more emotional and human. Instead of simply watching Arnold sprint past cartoonish killers with a one-liner locked and loaded, we get Glen Powell as Ben Richards, someone whose motives actually make sense, whose pain feels earned, and whose desperation hits a lot harder than I expected. And honestly, it's refreshing to see this world rebuilt with stakes that feel real instead of just loud. What really caught me off guard was how the new version manages to be dystopian, stylish, and totally over the top, yet still make Richards feel like someone we should root for deeply. Powell brings this grounded vulnerability that we never got from the original film. Don't get me wrong, Arnold was iconic, but subtle emotional nuance wasn't really the mission back then. Here, Richards isn't just running because the plot says so. He's running because the world has crushed him, and survival is the only form of rebellion he has left. That shift adds a surprising layer of heart to a story that, in my memory, was mostly loud costumes and chainsaws. By the time the chase begins, you're not just watching for the spectacle. You're watching because you actually want Richards to make it out alive. And in a landscape crowded with empty action spectacle, that emotional connection hits differently. Then there's Edgar Wright, the director whose style is impossible to miss. Even if you walked into the theater blindfolded, you'd know within 5 minutes that this is one of his films. Wright has this incredible ability to use movement, editing, and sound to turn simple scenes into something that feels rhythmic and alive. And while The Running Man leans more into action thriller than comedy, his fingerprints are everywhere. The soundtrack pulses like a heartbeat. The chase scenes hit with the precision of a music video. Dialogue snaps with just enough humor to lighten the darkness without breaking the tension. It's the same kind of stylistic electricity he brought to Baby Driver, except now it's wrapped around a brutal televised death game where every step forward feels like another drumbeat in a giant, dangerous song. You can tell Wright loves the original, but he never lets nostalgia drag things down. Instead, he builds a world that feels retro without being cheesy, futuristic without being sterile. The tech looks like something someone in 1986 might have imagined for the year 2025. Chunky screens, glowing buttons, grimy metal corridors, analog gadgets that feel strangely alive. There's something comforting about seeing a dystopian future that isn't sleek and silver, but gritty and tactile. It makes the danger feel physical, like you're trapped in the game right alongside Richards. Every set, every prop, every environment feels like it was crafted to echo that era without copying it. And that balance gives the movie a distinct personality that sets it apart from the sea of glossy sci-fi action films we get today. And let's talk about Glen Powell for a minute, because this guy is having one of the wildest career ascensions in Hollywood right now. Between Top Gun Maverick, Hitman, and everything else he's touched lately, Powell has perfected this blend of confidence, charm, and emotional honesty. His Ben Richards might not be Schwarzenegger-level jacked, but he brings a scrappy energy that makes him incredibly likable. You can see the wheels turning in every decision, every escape, every desperate grab for survival. He feels smart, resourceful, and human in a way that redefines what an action hero can look like in this kind of story. It's not about being unstoppable. It's about refusing to stay down, even when the entire world is built to crush you. From the moment the game begins, the movie barely gives you a second to breathe. Wright structures the action like a series of escalating arenas, each one more intense and visually distinct than the last. 1 minute, Richards is sprinting through neon-lit alleyways, and the next, he's navigating massive industrial zones or barren wastelands that hide dangers under every shadow. But what I appreciated most was the clarity. You always know where characters are, what they're doing, and why the moment matters. Too many modern action films drown everything in shaky cameras and rapid cuts, but this one actually lets you enjoy the choreography. Each set piece expands the world, raises the stakes, and keeps you locked in as you wonder who's trustworthy, who's lying, and who's secretly pulling strings behind the scenes. That said, the movie isn't without flaws. At just over 2 hours, it definitely feels like certain scenes could have been trimmed. Some character moments linger a little too long, or repeat beats we already understand, which slows the momentum just when things should be tightening. And there are still a few campy moments where dialogue swings a little too hard into comic book territory. But honestly, the silliness fits the story's DNA. The original Running Man thrived on ridiculousness, and the remake embraces that spirit without letting it derail the tone. It's not aiming for prestige cinema. It's aiming for fun, intensity, and a touch of outrageous flair. The same ingredients that made 80s action movies so unforgettable. Of course, this movie won't land for everyone. Some viewers are going to find it too loud, too weird, or too stylized. Others may want something more grounded and serious. But for fans of that uniquely exaggerated 80s action energy, movies like Total Recall, RoboCop, Escape from New York, this film feels like a love letter. It understands what made those classics so irresistible. The colorful villains, the heightened stakes, the rough edges, the blend of dark themes, an outrageous spectacle. It captures that vibe without feeling like a parody, which is honestly a tough balance to pull off. If you grew up sneaking R-rated movies you absolutely weren't supposed to be watching, this will feel comfortingly familiar. And speaking of ratings, parents should know this movie doesn't hold back. It's a hard R, from violence to blood to the bleakness of watching society cheer on televised death for entertainment. The themes are heavy, the language is rough, and the tone stays dark throughout. Even when the movie slips into moments of humor, it's not meant for younger audiences, and it doesn't pretend otherwise. In many ways, that intensity helps sell the world. You feel the brutality, the desperation, the stakes that define Richard's struggle. It's not shock for shock's sake. It's the story's brutal reality. By the time the credits roll, the Running Man makes something very clear. It's not trying to be perfect. It's trying to be thrilling, stylish, and emotionally grounded enough to keep you invested from start to finish. And on that front, it succeeds. It's Edgar Wright exploring a genre he's never tackled before, but still letting his personality shine through every scene. It's Glen Powell stepping into full action star territory and proving he can carry the weight of a massive blockbuster on his shoulders. And for longtime fans of the original, especially those who grew up believing it was bigger than it really was, it's a surprisingly respectful evolution of a story that always deserved another shot. So if you're wondering whether this remake finally does the Running Man justice, the answer is yes, though not by copying the original, but by reimagining it with heart, style, and a deeper understanding of why this story works. It's a neon-lit sprint through chaos, packed with energy, emotion, and enough wildness to make you grin at its audacity. Whether you're a die-hard 80s action junkie or someone discovering this world for the first time, this version offers something worth watching. Thanks for joining me on this breakdown, and if you enjoyed diving into this film with me, don't forget to hit like, drop a comment with your favorite action movie remake, and subscribe for more deep dives just like this one.